adjournment. City Council 10:12 a.m. Wednesday, June 26, 2024. City Hall Complex Council Chambers. Call this meeting to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. And just for everybody knows, we're trying to get Councilman Bojorquez on the call. Okay, we have call to the public, Jose Pimienta. Yes. Turn on the mic, please. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Mayor, Councilmen, and Directors. I'm up here. I'm the president for the Nogales Police Officers Association, so I want to go ahead and represent the officers for the city of Nogales. I have some concerns over what's been happening and what's leading to here, where there's a talk of anybody making $60,000 or more are going to be getting 2%. Anybody making less is going to get 5%. My concern is, even though it looks good on paper, it's going to have ramifications down the line. And those ramifications is, if I'm a patrolman and this follows through and it continues, I don't need to promote, because in a couple of years, I'll be maybe a couple of hundred, couple of $1,000s shy of what a sergeant makes or a corporal makes. So I'll be able to respond to calls and not have to worry about the responsibilities of, is so-and-so in? How many people do I have? Who needs to respond to this call? This is a priority. I don't have to worry about that because I don't need to climb the ladder. And then on the other side of the coin, what that does is this lets people or other officers that are coming from the outside go, well, this isn't a very friendly place if their middle management isn't being taken care of. So I'm here to ask you, think about it logically and thoroughly before you take this next step. Because what's going to happen is you're hurting your middle management. There's no incentive to go up. There's no step increases. So what's the incentive of going up, of trying to do something better your family, go to school, get a promotion? It's not there. It's not conducive. It's not a smart idea on my part. So please think about it. Don't go through with it, because you're going to wind up hurting our city more than what it already is. And as it is, we're hemorrhaging employees, especially at the PD. And I can only speak for the PD. I can't speak for other departments. So what's going to happen if we deplete it and there's no more officers? Who's going to respond when somebody dials 911? Think about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, with that said, now we go to item number 4, budget workshop, fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. Does anybody want to do a comment? Go ahead, Mr. Councilman Gradius.
First of all, I just want to thank everybody for being here, and I want to make sure we're clear that we are not arguing about giving our employees any raises. We're just trying to do the best outcome that we can, and we'd be remiss if we didn't do our due diligence to explore other avenues other than just the 5%. It may be the best one. I'm not opposed to it, and at the minimum, that's what we're looking at, but we're trying to find ways where we can get everybody more money. The way I look at it, we're losing employees on the lower and middle ranks. Those are the ones that are leaving. Our management and our supervisors, they're not going anywhere right now. This is a one-time fix just for this year, maybe even half a year, till we can get our pay study, which keeps to be being pushed back, but that should have been done years ago because we're way behind. Nobody here that is an employee of the city is near to what market value is or will be once we get that study. But we got to find a way that we can get everybody closer, not just certain people. So we're not doing this to try and differentiate between you're worth more than this person or the other person. That's not the case. But I think different people have different ideas, and we should hear everybody before we proceed. I was the one that brought up the 6 and 2 because it was something I thought we could get behind. I'm not 100% behind it, but I will push it if it's the best idea. But if I hear other comments that can sway me, I'm open for that. I'm also opposed to giving our city manager or city judge or city attorney and our prosecutor any raises because they are contract employees. They can negotiate their contract at any time. And even though their contract says they're subject to getting any raises council gives all the employees, it doesn't say we must unless legally there's an issue there, but the city attorney can shed some light on that. But that's where I stand. If we have contract employees, I was opposed to the contract initially based on the fact of the contract, not the person in charge, because I have no quarrels with that. It's just the contract itself. It's too favorable to just one person, and I don't think the interests of the city were covered when we took up on that contract, and I voted against it. So I'm here to let you guys know we're just proposing this. We haven't decided, and there's misconception there that we don't want to give you guys any raises. That's not true. We want to give you the best possible outcome that we can with the money we have. We've had a couple great years, but that's not to say that's going to continue. City has no property tax, which is another revenue stream that we need to explore. We're based mostly on sales tax. So what happens when our sales tax go down? We're going to give everybody raises, then we're going to start letting off people. That's not the way it should be. So we got to do our due diligence. That's why I was opposed to ratifying the budget, approving the budget as it was when it was presented. Not because of the raises. That's not the case at all. That's something we got to discuss, but it's not something that is set in stone. So don't think that we're not trying to give you raises. We're just trying to do the best outcome we have with the amount of money we have. That's my concern. So that's what I wanted to say on that. I did propose the 6 and 2. If it's not feasible, then it's not feasible, but I've been doing my due diligence. Look at all these studies I've been given. So I'm not lying to you. I am going through all these numbers, and yeah, sometimes they get skewed, and we talk about compression and this and that. There's always going to be compression, whether we do a 5% across the board or a certain amount across the board or half here, half there. We have inflation that we haven't dealt with in years, and we can't do it all at once. Hopefully, when we do get this new pay study done, we can set everybody closer to where they should be, but there's no way we're going to get everybody up to where they need to be instantly. There's not enough money and maybe not enough time, but it will get done, and that's what we need to shoot for. So that's what I'm bringing to the table. Let's look at everybody else's proposals if they have any. I'm not opposed to any, but let's talk about it, and let's find out how we can get to point A together and not go off in different directions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Doyle?
Yes, thank you, Councilman Gradius. That was a good opening statement, and actually you beat me to the punch as far as I wanted to just ask. I know that Vice Mayor Bojorquez is not here.
He is on the line now.
He's on the line.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. And again, I thank you, Vice Mayor. I know I had a trip out of town today and I canceled it because I feel this is very important. People have called me and wanting to know. Again, they don't mind pay raises for the employees. They wanted to make sure, I guess, trying to clarify the city manager's position on that he was going to benefit the most from this pay raise. They had some concerns whether, I guess the city manager can always, one of the questions they ask, and I guess you can answer it, maybe not now, but maybe throughout this meeting, was they want to know why the city manager felt that he needed that type of pay raise, since apparently they felt that he was getting already, this is what some of them said, overpaid for that position, considering that we went a little higher than normal when we first brought you in. So I guess the question from some of the public is, do you feel deserving to be part of that pay hike if we went 5 across the board. Again, I know that we're going to explore different options and hopefully come to some kind of agreement. So I don't know if you care to address that down, after we've discussed everything, or if you want to mention something now. That's the question from some of the people in the public. Thank you, and I hope that we have a productive meeting.
Okay, Miss, anybody else have a comment? Go ahead, Miss Montiel.
To echo some of the comments that were made by my fellow council members, I talked in the last budget meeting a little bit about my point of view, and it's just my point of view. We all have, there's 7 points of view that make decisions that the taxpayers vote us into these positions to listen to the taxpayers, look at the budget and make some critical decisions based on what information we are given. So just so you'll know a little bit about that is we're given information and we base our decisions based on the information that the city manager is directly under us, based on what the city manager gives us and proposes. And we make decisions based on that information. I have thought a lot about this because I take the budget very serious, because that's the economic engine of this community. That's your money, your hard-earned money that goes into the city. And we have to do our due diligence. We have to look into different options and how to explore the information that is given to us. We also have a responsibility to go talk to people, because misinformation is very damaging when people go out and give misinformation. I'm very glad you're all here. I asked Mr. Bermudez yesterday, I said, how do people go to the meeting? It's at 10 o'clock. I prefer meetings after 5, so everyone has the opportunity. He said, well, they take their lunchtime or they take personal time off. So because I would love all the employees to have the opportunity to be here. So that's one thing. And I'm glad you're all here, and I salute you for being here, because this is your livelihood, your money that you're earning hard, you're earning every day to make ends meet. So the economy is not where we want it to be, and I'm not an expert in that, but I do read, and it's not going to be as wonderful, as we want it to be. And so we have to make sure that this money that we have is used in the best way possible. And everybody has opinions. You're here because you have an opinion. You're taking care of your own livelihood. You're making sure that you get enough money to support your family. So I don't blame you for being here. My point of view about this whole thing is equality. And I know my partner here next to me has a different view of equality. We all do. We all do. I'm retired. I'm okay. But it doesn't mean that I can't take care of the person next to me that is struggling. That's my responsibility as a council member to say, because I'm okay, I don't know the person next to me or the one that picked up my trash yesterday or cleaning the parks or picks up a phone is okay. So I have a responsibility to make sure that equality is for me, that's my priority. And that could be a matter of opinion. If I'm earning $200,000 and I get a 5%, my share is going to be a lot higher. It's simple math. We all know that. But we want to make sure that this study that they've been using for years and years, I would have liked for it to be explored last year before we did what we're doing now. Okay? And to say that nobody put it on the agenda, well, you know what? That it should have been put on the agenda. Maybe we could have explored it and looked at it. So that is already water under the bridge. We have to work with the numbers that have been given to us. And I asked management to come up with different ways how we can, divide this 777. Where they came up with 777,000, well, it's sustainable. Sustainable is a word that's been used very commonly now. Well, You know, 800 is also sustainable. But what does sustainable mean? Well, they looked at the budget and they thought, okay, what do we have in our balance? What do we have in our contingency? And see how we can move these monies around so everybody can get a fair share. So I looked at different ways to explore where every employee is valued. It doesn't matter if you're, like Mr. Pepper said over there, the patrolman should get the same, I believe, of top management. That's just my philosophy. That's my opinion. I feel that because the compensation report is out of whack, management has said it, the council has said it. So I feel that we should get a certain amount. You know, management came out with 777. That's fine with me. We can go up to 800. They say they have a very healthy budget. The money is there. And I did check, it's there. We could divide the $800,000 or 777. Let's go with 800 just to make the math easier. I'm not a great mathematician. We divide $800,000 into 310 employees. That's what I got from the information they gave me. And we divide that into 310 employees. And each employee at the city of Nogales will get $2,580. That's what I propose. Because let me tell you, the lowest paid employee at the city of Nogales earns $31,286. $31,000. With a 5%, that employee would get $1,564.30. The highest paid employee would get $7,500. Okay? What I'm proposing is that because we have a compensation report or study, whatever you want to call it, that management and we have decided mutually, I mean, we did come to that consensus that it's out of whack, that we need to look at, you know, cost of living, all the other factors. We wait to get a compensation report. We have a study session where I invite all of you so that we can have something to contribute, more ideas, more heads together. We come with better solutions, and we do something more equitable. I know some of the people sitting here will think, well, 5%, that's, you know, the higher management has to get rewarded more, has to get a bigger chunk. That's a matter of opinion. We all have different opinions. That's why we have 7 members that vote. But what I propose, because I asked for different ways to look at this, and I didn't get anything. So I went out and did this little paper with, you know, people that earn 59 and below, 69 and below, 79, 89, 90. Then I had Pepper. I had the judge who said, may I talk to you? I went and talked to the judge. He called me because he said management said it was okay. So I listened to people. I listen to different people, different minds, different ways of the way they see this whole salary increase, wages thing. And so my proposal is to get $800,000 and divide it into all the employees that work for the city of Nogales and give them that equal share. And the equal share, if you divide it, would be $2,580, because right now, the lowest paid, again, is $31,286. That's the lowest paid employee in the city of Nogales. And the highest paid, I said it again, $150. But when we do across the board, everyone gets the same share, that person who was going to get $1,560 will get $2,580. So that person that earns 31 is going to get $2,580. That's, for me, valuing that employee. That's what I call, you pick up my trash this morning, you're going to get the same amount that that person is getting at the top tier. That's how I see it. If I was that that employee, I would say, oh, for the first time, I'm going to be rewarded with the same amount that my superior gets. That's my opinion, and you have every right to disagree. So the patrolmen out there, I looked at their salary. They're going to get more, they're going to get $2,580 if we go with this, more than they would get with the 5% increase. I looked through every single salary, the compression, and people are going to make more than supervisors if we do this. I looked at every single logistical point of view people had. Because people in this room you're not the only ones that reached us. A lot of people reached us and because they're because of rumors. So maybe my math is wrong, but I went over it. I looked at all the information they gave us. And that's what I propose, that every employee get the same amount for now until we fix this problem that has been lingering at the city of Nogales for a long time. If not, the other alternative is give a 5%. And the person that earns $31,000 will only get $1,564. You tell me that's equitable. Of course not. My partner might say, no, we go with the highest, get the most. That's the way it is, and we're going to do it. Then it's up. This is why you voted for us here for us to make that decision. And just so that you'll know, the reason we're still going into budget studies here is because the budget was presented to us, in my opinion, very late. And there's a state schedule that says it's due July 15th. So we are in a hurry, not because us. We've been waiting. And we waited for the audit until I brought that up, and then that was given to us. So it snowballed. So I'm not taking the responsibility for we're doing what we can here with information we're given. But I sure wasn't going to adopt a tentative budget without a audit. In light of everything that's happening with our neighbors, I'm not going to adopt a tentative budget in light of everything that's going on, because the buck stops with us. So that's my idea, and that's just my suggestion.
Thank you, Ms. Montiel. Mr. Bonillas.
Thank you, Mayor. For all of you who have been working here for maybe at least 15 years, let's go back the past 3 administrations. Let's go back Garino, Doyle, and Garino. As I can remember, it was an average of 1.8, 2.0. Am I correct, Gene? Somewhere around there. So that's pretty much the average. So this administration proposes a 5% increase across the board, which it's kind of a radical thing, because if we go back, 3 administrations, it's never been heard of, a 5%. What I'm afraid is that I will agree with Councilwoman Montiel that we share different views. There's a thing called equality, and now they're throwing another word. It's equitable. It's not equitable. The problem with equitable is that we're using that word, but I have not seen that anywhere in the employee handbook, policies or procedures, how we go about fixing inequities in our pay system. It's very hard to apply to be equitable when, like they both, Gardias and Montiel, have stated that they get paid differently. Yes, that is true. If we pay 5% across the board, and I like to clear up something, I really don't see this 5% as an increase. I really see it as a cost adjustment of living, because we will give out the correct raise when we get that workers' comp study in. Do we need to pay our employees more? Absolutely. Do we need to? But we can't just say, if we're not careful with this word equitable, to me, at this point, equitable is like that mythical creature, a unicorn. It's a mythical creature. It doesn't exist. But if we're not careful, it becomes like a Trojan horse. And whether we do it consciously or unconsciously, we're going to start targeting employees. And that's what it's looking right now. We're punishing our employees that have diplomas, masters, and whatnot, and we're telling them, no, we don't care what you went through school and all this and that. See, the thing is, the city gives every employee the tools to move up in the system. Whether what do you call that, Mr. Bermudez? The $4,000 that we pay them back for their tuition. So I agree that yes, of course, the lowest tier. I do agree with Montiel's numbers, but at this point, we need. This is just a Band-Aid. This is not permanent, but we need to give those 5% across today, because if we go down that path of equity, what's equitable? See, because they've admitted that yes, it is equal, but it's not equitable. But we're not trained. None of us here are trained. We have received no training in that, and what's equitable and how to go about how will we even go about implementing it in our pay structure. That is the hardest thing to do, because like I said, it becomes a Trojan horse. It looks like we're targeting people at the top in our quest to protect the person on the bottom. Well, what about the people on top that put in all this time? Ms. Montiel, she should understand. She's a very educated person. She has certain degrees. So it is in the quest of being equitable, we are targeting people, whether it be at the top or in the middle. We are slowly sending the wrong message. The 5% across the board is equal. Equal is equal. And that's only for a while until we get that that comp study in, whether it be 6 months or a year. So 5% is closer to nothing. And I agree. Do we need to pay our employees more? Yes, but everyone across the board. And if in the near future, when we do that study and we find out that directors are already at where they should be, then that's a subject, that's another discussion for another day. But we cannot right now tell them, we cannot say as mayor and council say, you deserve this, you deserve less, you don't deserve anything. Not with me. 5% is equal to everyone. And if you're at the top, yes, you get more. Does it look fair at the bottom? No, but you still get your 5% for now. And when we get that study in, I guarantee you that you're going to get what you're worth. But for now, going about it with equitable and saying, well, it's equal, but it's not equitable to me, we're not training that. None of us here are. Unless Ms. Fuentes could explain that to us, how that is implemented in the city, which I have not seen it. Or do we have any procedures, Carmen, for no, that's what I thought. So we will need to this is a quick fix, not a permanent fix, as Mayor has stated, as Mr. Bermudez has stated. Is it a perfect fix? No, it's not. But it is sustainable. And yes, right now our revenues are very healthy. Nothing guarantees, like Mr. Gladillas stated. Everything can turn bad in 1 year. But let's be optimistic. You know, we've had 3 years of positive revenue growth, right, Gene? So I propose that we keep the 5% across the board. When we get the new workers' comp study, then I think we're going to have definitely more study time and see and put everyone at the right level, pay level. Not at what we think, not what our emotions say, or because right now it looks like we're targeting employees. That's what it's become. The word equitable, to me, again, because we have no training. I have no training. No one here has training on that. So to try to implement that right now will be very irresponsible. Thank you.
Ms. Melendez?
I went through all the payroll schedule, and it figures 5% to everybody. You deserve more. Of course, you all deserve more. I wish we had a better budget today so that we can give you much more than 5%. 5%, I think, to everybody. We don't have to be saying you deserve 5 and you deserve 2. No. It has to be equally to everybody. So right now, according to what we have present right now, 5% to everybody, to me, it's okay. That's all I have to say right now.
Councilman Doyle.
Well, I want to thank the councilman for their points of view. But I also feel that we can be equal by what Councilwoman Montiel mentioned as far as giving. It's almost like across the board, but we're going to be dividing into all the employees or the employees into the amount that we have, which I guess 800,000 if you round it off, which again would give every employee 22,580 and 65 according to the math. That's not peanuts. That addresses most of the city workers, and even the ones that are a little above that, it kind of brings them pretty close in line. Even with a 5% increase, even if they make more than the middle tier to the bottom tier. So it would help. The thing is, we're talking about, again, it's something that we can address also. If we go that way, we can still address it in the future with another study. And there we can kind of even make it more equal to everyone. And it doesn't target anybody, because everybody's going to get the same amount. And I like that idea because it's fair, not only to the employees, but I think it'll put us in a good line doing our due diligence. I kind of like that idea more than just going across the board and letting, from what I've heard, the upper tier getting the lion's share. I think this is actually will help those employees that need the help. And, if we all go to the groceries and buy the same items, the ones that make over 60, 70,000 don't have such a hard time buying groceries as the ones that make below that. So I think that for right now, everybody should be happy that they're not being targeted. They'll all be getting the same amount. And then down the road, we'll be able to compensate a little better and even with more equality. And that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes.
Heard some good arguments, and it's something I'd like to look at is that 800,000 divided amongst our employees. So if we can make that happen, I'd really like to take a look at that, at how it actually would work out. We have 310 employees. 265 of our employees make less than 59,000 or up to 59,000. 45 make above. So it's not like we're targeting a lower tier, a middle tier, or a higher tier. It's just making sure we're covered everywhere. It was mentioned that only 25% make up the lower tier at our last meeting. Well, it's not we're targeting the 25%. It's the majority of our employees. That's a big majority, 265 out of 310. So that's a big difference we got to consider. Another thing is you talked, Councilman Bonillas talked about degrees and diplomas and stuff like that. I know for a fact there are many employees that already have degrees that are making less than $60,000. Some of them even making $30,000. So we can't hang our hat on just because you have a degree or not. They do have degrees, but there hasn't been any room for them to move anywhere in the city because those are the positions we have, and their positions are classified as such. That comp study is going to be a big difference when it comes to fruition, and it's going to help everybody and bring us up to par. We're not going to do it today. We're not going to do it maybe in a year or after the comp study, because we're going to have to implement that comp study in pieces also. We don't have a lot of money to do that. So we got to be diligent and make sure what we have right now is this much. Hey, I'm up to looking for how we can do an 800,000 spread across the board. I think that would be better for everybody because we're just doing a Band-Aid right now. We're not looking to reward you or the other person. Everybody is equal. Everybody is as valuable. So I'm not trying to take anything from anybody. And across the board means across the board, from one to the city manager, everybody would get the same. I could fall behind that. I just want to make sure that it is feasible and it's doable. So I'd like to see the numbers on that and make sure that we're trying to help our employees. And yeah, you mentioned 15 years, we've only done 1.5, 2% increase, right? But last year, let me remind you, we addressed seniority by giving everybody another percent per year up to 10 years of service. So some people got 10%, some people got $10,000, $4,000 more than everybody else. So we're moving in the right direction. Let's keep moving that way, but let's do it the right way, diligently, and make sure that fiscally we are being responsible for taxpayers' dollars, and we're not just rewarding people just because, yeah, okay, he has a degree. Other people have degrees. Everybody's a valuable employee, and I think we got to look at it that way. So if we can get those numbers, I'd really like to look into that before we make any decisions. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilman Bonillas.
Thank you, Mr. Gardiaz. And that's a good point, Mr. Gardiaz, that slowly but surely this city has taken steps to improve the livelihood of our employees. So with that said, an additional 5% this year, and some of them last year some even got a 10% raise. Am I correct, Mr. Bermudez? A 1% for every year that we're working. So
1% per every year. So it's not a 10% raise, it's 1% per year, up to 10 years.
So we have been doing slowly, yeah. So we've been slowly but surely trying to invest in our employees. And, you know, I want to clear up something with a comment that's been said here, that they're worried about this budget, that they can't vote in favor of it because of what's happening at the county. Me personally, I trust all the employees of City of Nogales. I don't mistrust. I believe that we have employees with very high integrity, and to put a question mark on top of their head and question their integrity, that to me is quite, it's frightening, it's offensive, because the problem happening across the pond is an elected official only. Not the employees, an elected official. So I thank every employee for the City of Nogales for their work. We are fighting for you. I am fighting for you. But again, what's fair is fair. We're trying to get this across. My biggest concern, when was the date, Councilman Montiel, the 15th that we have to finish with the budget? July 15th.
That's just the tentative budget, no later.
Yeah. So I've asked the mayor, I asked Mr. Bermudez, and I haven't asked Mr. Palladini, what would happen if we don't get it done? My biggest concern is that if we don't get it done, so what would that mean? We don't have any spending authority? So.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the final budget has to be adopted, Mayor and Council, before the end of July. And I think the last weekday in July is the 29th. So, but you also have a publishing requirement, which is 2 weeks. So I would, you know, even though statutorily it says you can adopt your tentative budget not later than July 15, I don't think that really works from a practical standpoint, because you have to know when your, I guess, special meeting would be if you set it in the last week of July for your notice. It has to be published in the paper.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. If you don't approve a final budget, you close down. You don't have any money to spend.
Great.
And it's not, you know, and the federal government, for instance, has, or the Congress has concurrent resolutions. They can fund pieces and parts of the federal government. So they furlough some and they keep some. That doesn't apply to municipal government. It's a complete shutdown. So, and then there are potential state shared revenue penalties or losses that you would also incur. So it sort of compounds the problem if you don't adopt a final budget before the end of July.
Like I was saying, we've been making progress in the past, I think, 3 to 4 years as far as trying to invest in our employees. I don't like it when we lose an employee to other municipalities. There are municipalities, there are cities out there that will pay a police officer $8,000 just for signing on with them. Then they'll have an additional bonus for being bilingual. We can't afford that right now, unfortunately. But what we can do is be responsible, as Mr. Garcia said. I don't think none of us here as council were trained in that matter. I am an audio engineer. I deal with huge, massive concert sounds. I'm not a numbers guy. So we pay a lot of money to Mr. Bermudez. We pay a lot of money to Gene Molman. And they're my advisors. They're the advisors of the mayor. And we got to trust them. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Dono.
Well, going along those lines, I still believe that the general public has placed us here to make sure that we have those check and balances. And of course, we think highly of all the employees, but it's still up to us to make sure that the confidence and trust that the public has entrusted us with, that we put those guidelines and follow those steps and procedures. Now, we had a lot of red flags with that report that we had. So we need to take a closer look. There's some departments that need to get a closer look. Water and sewer have been on the red for too long. We need to make a complete audit of those departments to make sure why, actually in black and white. And so it's not so much about not trusting, but it's up to us, the council, to do our due diligence, to do what the people have entrusted us to do. And that's the reason that I feel, yes, we need to find out what's going on, how it can be improved, what measures and steps need to be taken, and that we're not going to resolve that today. But as far as the salary goes, we have to realize that we're affected by our city sales tax, which is like a roller coaster at times. And right now, as I was speaking to Councilwoman Lopez, that she likes to be on top of things, especially south of the border. And with the new president coming in, and there seems to be some opposition, there's going to be less people coming over shopping, and we don't know for how long. So we really rely on a lot of our shoppers from down south to give us our city sales tax. So if we take a drop at that from their purchasing power and sales drop, well, it's going to affect our revenue. And so it's another thing that we have to be taking consideration and see how that goes. But again, with a salary increase for the time being, if we want to be fair and say that we didn't target anyone, I still like the idea that we're giving every employee the 2580, which pretty much covers everybody below 60,000 as far as getting a little more than they would from the 5%. And I guess Mr. Gradia, Councilman Gradias came out that it covered about 255 employees from the 310. And I think that's pretty equitable, especially when you're talking about those 55 that are making a lot more than most people in our community. As far as other communities go, that they pay more, we can't help that because they have property taxes, they have mines, they have tourism coming in. It seems like anything down from Tubac over here, we get a trickle effect. So we really have to have these other agencies like the chamber and whatnot pushing tourism so to attract people down to Nogales. But again, that's another roller coaster ride. We can't depend on that. The thing is, our strength is more on the people that come from Mexico to shop, and that's questionable at this point. So again, we're not as fortunate as some other communities that have these other type of revenues that they have, and they can do a lot more. They can offer more. They have stronger budgets. And so, we got to realize that this community is not the same as other communities, and we can't keep up with the Joneses just because they have a better income. So we're doing the best we can. This is a good pay raise for the majority of our employees, and even the ones on top are going to get compensated. So I think I'll mention an example. When Mr. Machado was here, when I was mayor, we did that pay increase, and we had our differences, but he got my respect on that call. That he said, he told us the pay raise that I'm going to get, I don't want it. He said, if you give it to my employees. And I thought that was very honorable of him. And I think why? Because he made more money, and he felt that he didn't need that extra money. And again, he set a good example. I think when you want to do something honorable, that's the way to do it. Think about your employees first. Every leader in our country, every great leader, from the military, always take in consideration the lower tier. They're the enlisted men, the ones that are out there on the front lines. And that's what we got to look at. We got to take care of our hard workers. And I think that anybody that does have gone to college and gotten the degrees, they understand that. They know. And they know things sometimes get tough. And if they're here in our community, it's for a lot of reasons besides the check they're going to get. So, let's consider the lower tier or the middle class tier, and that they benefit, and that everybody will feel comfortable, and especially us as in the council, that we did our best to keep everybody happy. But if anything, we help those that need the most help. That itself is very rewarding, and I think it shows that we're doing our due diligence. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Greyes.
Further down on the orders, we've included, see, what does it say here? A proposal from the Arizona Municipal Risk Retention Pool for workers' compensation insurance, risk insurance, property liability, and a proposal by the City of Nogales Employee Benefit Trust for health insurance premium. Has that already been included in the budget? So we've already discussed that, then there is no effect on what we're discussing here today. Okay, great. Mr. Bermudez, I have a question for you. Are you opposed to an across-the-board raise, let's say of 25, 80, whatever that number turns out to be after we crunch the numbers? And what is the difference between an across-the-board 5% raise?
It would be different. Number one, I'm not opposed. I can certainly take a look at that. The only thing with the dividing, let's say, for example, like we're talking about a round figure number of 800,000 between 310 employees, you need to take into consideration that the top tier employees have a higher tax bracket and would be getting much less than the $2,500. That's what we need to take into consideration. But I'm not opposed to that. We can go back and do some research on it and bring it back if that's what you so wish.
Thank you.
I would like to take a look at those numbers.
Guys, we got a lot of employees here. I thank you for your willingness to be here, and I know it's deep in your minds. Where do you fall? Where are you gonna be? Like I've said it in the last meeting. I don't want to take away from the ones that we're gonna get 4,000 now to only get 25.8. You know, my goal is to make, you know, get a even number, which numbers don't lie, and a 5% does not, makes it even to what you're getting right now as an employee. You know, I didn't say 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. Percent is a percent, and numbers don't lie. But, you know, does anybody want to throw in 5 cents of words? I'll give you a chance to speak out. Does anybody want to say of the employees? Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, mayors and council. I do want to take this time just to touch up on the 5% raise for all the employees that work directly under fire. I understand that the upper management will get a maybe larger portion, but I also want everybody to understand that some of the captains, paramedics, they also carry a big responsibility. I have no problem giving up my 5%, but what's fair is fair. And I start at the bottom also. So that's all I got to add.
Anybody else want to say any words? You know, I'm for it. I'm for the 5%. I'm for, you know, doing this compensation study. It's, you know, I've got a business, and it's very, you know, hard to try to give the same salary to my sales manager or to a salesman than to somebody. There's somebody back there wanting to talk. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, good morning. So talking about cost living adjustments, inflation is across the board and it's a percentage that affects everybody. So I think we should stay thinking about the cost of living adjustment. I see that some mention about raises, but I think that's not the subject in this particular occasion. So a cost living adjustment has to be equal across the board because inflation affects the dollar, not the market rate of our employees. We want to get forwards a market rate for employee pay. We need to push the market study. So I think we should keep thinking about cost of living and not so much about the raises. I think the raises should come later when the study is actually available. I really think we should push to make a decision as soon as possible because those rates are just going to keep going up. So if we're just throwing a number out there, if it's a 12% right now, it's going to be a 15. Soon it's going to be 18. So it's going to be impossible for us to reach that rate anytime soon. So that's all I just wanted to mention. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. One of my main concerns is I understand that trying to be fair, equal around the board, and I see that sometimes you guys want to decide if to either give an amount or a percentage. Either or, you know, if it's, let's say we split it between everybody. If they decide to do an amount, you have to understand that how Mr. Bermudez explained is that we fall in a higher tax bracket. We pay a higher insurance. So after the fact, if you decided, do you think that's equal, be given the same amount to every employee from the bottom all the way to the top? Take-home pay is not equal. And, you know, and that's one of the things that I don't know is being thought about. Even like Mr. Doyle said, you know, that let's say they're concerned about the taxes or anything like that. Either way, given the amount or the percentages, it's still going to be the same amount that's going to be given on percentage. I mean, the amount to the employees. I just want you guys to really consider into that because I feel the percentage across the board is the best way to right now to treat this, and then going forward with the work study to make sure who falls in what. I got to see the old one that we saw, and by comparing those numbers and seeing how we were paying our employees to the numbers that according to what we were supposed to be being paid from a study from 2017, the lowest person that was from the minimum were the supervisors, directors. I'm not a director, but I saw that the ones that were further down away from the minimum is directors. And you can look at those numbers, maybe it's different, but I think the numbers from 2017 to something that gets done more current might be different. My thing is just I want for you guys to consider that a flat number across the board is not the same equal as somebody from the top tax bracket and insurance payments and all that. Take-home pay is not going to be the same, so I want you guys to just consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Sounds like this is going to be tabled because more numbers have to be run. Look at the calendar and look at how much time you actually have. You're running out of time. And at the last minute, you're going to probably try to sneak something through that might not be favorable for everybody. So why don't we work together and get something today? Thank you.
Mayor,
Go ahead, sir.
if I could make a suggestion because we are sort of under a timeline to make a
Yes, sir.
decision. It sounds to me like there are two choices for the council. One is an equal split of the dollar amount. And unless you raise it to 800,000, it was 770 something thousand. So the choices I think for the council are to split that pot of money equally by dollar amount, or to do a 5% across the board. I think everything else in the budget is agreed to. So right now, I mean, and maybe not, but right now, given in the interest of time or in the interest of the deadlines we're making, it doesn't seem like, it's just sort of it's a choice one or choice two for the council.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gallegos.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm Robert Gallego. I'm the Acting Assistant Chief of Police right now, and I'm here to discuss. I'm here on behalf of my fellow officers. All right, we've been having issues. I think we've lost over 12 officers in the last year or so. We've lost a couple officers that honestly I think could be wearing the stars here in a couple years or further down the line. But the thing is, how am I going to keep officers when the thing is, that's not what I used to get paid. That's not what I didn't get paid this. There has to be, and I understand our community is not as well off as Sawarita. I know I've been talking to Mesta, Sergeant Mesta, who's brought up some numbers. The sheriff's office is at a point where I think a sergeant or something is making more than a lieutenant. Just for you know, I do make 79, I believe, right now. And I'm not about, it's not about me right now. And Mr. Doyle, you mentioned about being a leader. If you want to take my 5% off, go ahead by all means, because I'm worried about the officers that I'm losing on a daily basis, and more of the morale. One of the things when I got this position, I worked hard, and you can ask any officer about changing our morale in the police department. I think we've come a long way. But how am I? It's hard to compete when we keep getting this. You're not worth 5%, and I understand you guys are saying it's we got to budget the numbers and all that, and that's feasible. But here, if I want, say, Corporal Lopez to promote because I think he's a great leader, and I see him as a future chief of police, and I'm here and I'm telling him, this is how much you're worth, and you're not going to be worth any more at that point. What are we sending? And then I was talking to Sergeant Mesta. We need to start changing our mindset and our attitude. I had a little conversation earlier before I came up here, and I go, because they say you should promote to get paid more, and I'm not going to throw out any names, but you should promote to get paid more, right? So, and I go, if you promote and you get paid a salary, you can't work overtime. So at some point, you're actually making less. And the remark that I got was, well, what are you waiting for to leave, right? We got to change that mindset. If we want our department to be at a point where it's going to be where we want it, I got officers, and not to take anything away from the trash collectors, the parks and rec guys. I mean, I'm a coach. I'm a firm believer in keeping the parks for the community safe. I coach kids in the community, right? But I have my officers here. Actually, a couple were late because we had a drive-by shooting this morning. We're running towards danger. And I value what they do on a daily basis, right? And the thing is, we can't say we're equally, and then the word equality, not to make anything less to anyone, right? Another thing, somebody from Parks and Recs gets fired, they'll hire someone tomorrow. I have an officer that gets terminated or leaves to another agency. It takes almost a year to fill that spot up, right? Because he goes 4 or 5 months to the academy, another 3 or 4 months to be on his own. All that time is honestly just buying us time before, once he gets on his own, he's probably going to apply somewhere else because he honestly feels there's no future. So one of the things that I could get in trouble for being up here, and that's what I told Sergeant Mesta. But the thing is, I can't stay quiet because I'm here and I'm talking for my officers, for the community, because my officers are putting themselves in danger. Now, yes, 5%, 2%, whatever it is, but we keep tabling this 2 weeks and 2 weeks and 2 weeks. And at the end of it all, I get officers that are getting disappointed, and why wouldn't they, right? Because we go out there, and if nothing gets said today, then what are they going to say? Here we go again. And then at the same time, I know you guys have seen how many young officers we got out there. Almost 80%, right? And the thing is, I hope these officers stay enough time to be in our shoes. I mean, Officer Cameron just recently finished being on his own. He loves being here working for the police department. I wish I could pay him more. But where is he going to go in a year or two if he doesn't see people that have his back? Where's our leadership going to be 6, 7, 8 years ago from now? I mean, we have the chief of police. At 21 years, I can leave and retire and go work another job. But where's our future? Where's our future leaders going to be at? Who's going to be leading the department if everybody's leaving after 2 or 3 years? Right? We need to, like Mr. Bermudez said, professional growth, right? You get your education, you do your time. Where's your loyalty? Back in the day, when Councilman Gradias, Mr. Bermudez, Mr. Kissinger, right? It was rare when officers left the department. You were loyal and you stayed and you were wanting to move up. Now times have changed. All these new officers are going from one job to another looking for a better opportunity. All I'm saying is let's try at least to give them a chance to, you know what, I'm going to stay with my department because they see a great future in me. 79,000 as a lieutenant, honestly, is not a lot. I do have a kid that's in college. I have, nobody knows our expenses, right? So the thing is, I'm just asking for some support because after this meeting, whatever happens, I'm going to have to look at President Pimienta for the union, all these officers, all these young officers, and look at them in the eye and tell them, what do I tell them? What do I tell them? You're not worth this 5%, or you're worth 4%, or you're worth 2%. And like I said, I'm thinking about the future, our leaders. Who's going to be leading our department 3 or 4 or 5 years from now? Does it matter? And then I appreciate all of you guys' all of you guys' opinions. I'm listening to everything, and I just hope that you guys consider what I've talked about. And I know we've talked slightly, Mr. The chief here, battalion chief, or Urias Fire Department. Sorry, Fernando. I was going to say Nano. But the thing is, we got to value what we're doing. Like I said, it's not diminishing anybody's job. Like I said, I value the person that's picking up my trash. I really do. But I really do value what my officers are doing on a daily basis, and that's running into danger, helping people, right? And I think they need to be rewarded. And if it's my 5% that needs to go, honestly, by all means. I need it because 79,000 is not a lot. It used to be for back then, but times change. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Cervantes.
Robert. Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Council. I just couldn't leave without making a comment in reference to equity and equality. My department, whether you're answering the phone or unplugging toilets or up in the heat on the roof, talk about equity and equality, all my employees make the same, all of them. So I don't think we're here for the right purpose. If we're gonna place that Band-Aid, Mr. Gradius, let's make sure that Band-Aid is pushing us in the right direction. Whether it's equal across the board, that one amount, or 5%, let's make the decision as to what's getting us closer to where that study is gonna get us. Because I think that's the gap. We need to make sure that everybody is getting paid what they deserve to get paid according to what their responsibilities are. I value, Mr. Doyle, all my employees. If that makes me a loyal leader, like Robert said, take my 5%. But is that going to fix everything? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think we have Mr. Bojorquez. Mr. Bojorquez, would you like to say a couple of words? Mr. Hector.
He's there. No, he's there.
Hector.
He's probably muted.
Hector.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, Hector.
He's not.
Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me? Hello?
Go ahead,
Yes,
Hector.
Yes, after, you know, from the beginning of the budget. Yes, it's a little bit delayed on the, it's a little bit delayed on the communication. But, you know, from the beginning of the budget. Yeah, I was favoring the straight across the board amount that would be equal to everybody, to every employee. It's a little bit delayed on communication. But yeah, I was favoring the straight across the board amount that would be equal to everybody, to every employee.
Se cortó. No, it's not just check. No, está bien.
Okay, I'm gonna try to get him on the line. We'll just put him on the phone speaker.
Verizon Wireless. Welcome to
Brady. Okay.
Hector. 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 Hector, are you on the line? Okay, I'm gonna put you on
Speaker.
my speaker. You're in a meeting, a public meeting, just so you'll know. Okay, I'm putting you on speaker. Hi, Hector.
Okay. I know that yes.
Go ahead, Hector.
Okay. As I was saying, you know, from day one, I was yes. As I was saying on day one of the workshops for the budget, I proposed that we, okay.
It's hard. Hector.
I'm going to go ahead and say that to divide the 800,000 by 210 or 212 employees, that would be the fair thing to do. I don't want to hold anything, you know, I don't want to table this meeting anymore. But some of the employees are concerned that this is going to go on and on. You know, I'm ready to vote right now for the equal across the board amount, dollar amount.
So that's your opinion, you want to go to an equal divided amount?
Hector. Hector.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Reyes. I know we gotta cut it off.
Right, okay, just real quick, on the 5% increase, the paperwork I have, we have some employees getting 6%, 4%, and I think we're including an additional 1% for seniority or up to 10 years, is that correct? So it's not just the straight across the board 5%, we're including an additional 1% into what was represented. Okay, in the sake of not prolonging this, I think I can get behind approving a tentative budget by setting aside up to $800,000 for salaries, which we can discuss at a later time, whether we implement a 5% or across the board number. We still have enough gap in there, or we assure enough money in there so that we can make a better informed decision. And it'd be better if Mr. Bojorquez was also present, because I couldn't understand most of what he said. Kind of have an idea, but I think it'd be fair to everybody if we do it that way. But we do have to adopt a tentative budget, and being a tentative budget means it's subject to change, and we can still change it to go in whatever direction. I appreciate the employees that got up and talked. That is great. We need that feedback. And be assured, like I said, I'm trying to do the best thing available for you guys. I'm not hard-headed and say I want to do this and that. I had my proposal. I've been swayed a little. I'm still can get behind the 5%. It just depends on, let's work on it. But right now, our job is to adopt a tentative budget. And if we set aside that amount, then we can go either way. I don't know how my colleagues feel, but I think that's the best course of action right now.
Correct.
Counteract what he's saying, so go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, what I was going to say, Mayor, thank you, is that I also would like to thank the employees. One employee in particular, one of his comments was that we need to change the culture. That is so true. We as politicians, we need to change the culture of taking baby steps when it comes to the pay of our employees. The 5%, I believe, is being here my fourth year and being involved in politics, direct or indirectly in the past. It is a bold step, and there's anyone here that has been at odds with this administration, as well, you guys know me, it's me. But I have to admit that the 5%, it is a bold step. It is a big step. 5%. I told you earlier, guys. 1.8, 2.0, 2.0. And then some years you guys didn't get anything, but it's been in the past 3 years that you've gotten something, and I could get behind Mr. Gardia's idea of setting aside the 800,000, passing it with a 5%. We can always have another discussion, but we can definitely do that and get the ball rolling. Because my concern is right now that we don't get it passed in enough time, and then we'd be looking at a total government shutdown.
Thank you. Do you mind, Chita?
No.
Go ahead, Ms. Jean.
It's fine.
When we go to pass a tentative budget, what the council needs to pass is the bottom line number. The bottom line number that's in your tentative budget of $121,009,438. What we choose to do with salaries after the fact is up to the council. But for me to proceed to do it legally with the newspaper and getting the ads in so that we don't have to go into a furlough, you need to pass the bottom line number. That does not mean that everybody automatically gets a 5% or they get a 6% or they get a 2% or nothing. I don't care. You can, same as the other directors, take mine. We are here as directors because of all of the employees. We can't do our job without them. And my 13, love them to death. They can have mine. I don't care either way, but it's the bottom line number. The 121 million you guys need to pass so that we as the city, as the managers and the legal can move forward. If you guys want to discuss the salaries later, we will get you the 800,000, but the bottom line number won't change. So whoever's in the general fund, that amount, whether it be $770,000 or $800,000, doesn't change. It comes from the reserve or goes back into the reserve. Same with streets, same with water, same with sewer. Their bottom line department numbers never change. It either comes out of reserve or goes back into reserve. But the number, bottom line, isn't going to change. So that's what I think we need to focus on today, Mr. Mayor, sir, is passing that bottom line number, so then we can get the numbers that you guys are requesting. So then we can move the numbers however we need to make everybody happy.
Thank you, Jean, for a clarification. Go ahead, Ms. Montiel.
Just a couple of things. I've been observing and hearing and listening to everything. And just to make it clear, because there are other 200 and some employees out there, and it seems almost like, you know, semantics is a matter of the lawyer knows here. It's all about how words are used and changed. And I'm listening here, and just so you'll know that the council has nothing to do with running a department. So when you talk about officers, we're losing officers, we're you know, the fire department's been on just, you know, we don't know what's going on with the fire department. And all these little issues is we have no say, we don't know what's really going on. So to sit here and kind of almost take responsibility over, you know, the lack of employees here, and we're going to lose employees here and all that. That's called leadership. That's why you have department chairs to make those critical decisions. That's why we are just policymakers. We get information and we use that information to base our decision and vote on it. But it's interesting because I sit here and, you know, some things are staged, some things are not, some things are, you know, we all know how these little things are kind of maneuvered, if you will. We know that. So the issues, because you don't have enough officers, is nothing to do with us. Nothing. That has been ongoing for a while. If you're trying to say it's our fault because you're short in officers, or because you're kind of set in equity, equality, okay, I'll use some other word. I'll use some other fairness or whatever word. I'll go up to the dictionary and use another word. But the fact is that we'll never come to a conclusion because we have different opinions. So it's the bottom line, like the lawyer says, just vote on it. He's right. Just vote on it. Vote your conscience. Vote your conscience. That is all I remember when people that I look up to that have been around for a long time, just vote your conscience, because that way there's no threats of lawsuits. There's no threats of, you know, they're picking on me and they're picking on me because they're targeting me. No. We are going to vote our conscience. It's not, you know, we're targeting this one or unfair to this one. And I've been a manager before. We all have been in different capacities. Now to say, oh, you could take my % off away, and, you know, let's not play those little games. Everyone wants to get paid what they feel they deserve to be paid, and that's what we're here for. And so just to kind of, make us feel like we're responsible for not having enough employees, or all that's been ongoing. For years and years, it's been ongoing. I've been asking the city manager for, for a plan of action, if you will. Where are we going? It's called, setting some expectations and so forth. What is our vision as a city? What is our mission and vision? How do we get from A to Z? So when we're given things, we go with what is given to us. And the reason we are to this point with the budget, every single one of you know, we have been delayed from the very beginning. From the very beginning, we waited for an audit to come. We waited for the budgets. This should have been back in March, April, doing all this stuff that we're talking about. So we're waiting we're late, but it's not our doing that we're late. It's not our doing that we're late. We are postponing it because we've asked for numbers. You have no idea, and Tao can ask you. We've been asking for numbers. Give us these different numbers. different ways we can divide. The 777, they came up with it. Maybe they can go up to 900, 800, 700. I have no idea. I'm not the expert in numbers, but I do know how to add and subtract and do basic stuff. So again, it's not that we're trying to make someone feel, an employee, less or more valued. I think we're losing the point. The point is we're policymakers and we're doing with what we get. We get this information, and if you're happy with a 5%, and you're happy that whatever decision we're going to make, not everybody's going to be happy. That's just the way it is. Not everybody's going to be happy. But I want it to be on record that we are going to vote our conscience and do what we believe as a council is in the best interest of the community of the city of Nogales. Okay? Thank you. And Mr. Bermudez, I have a few questions because we're talking about salaries, but I know that Jean said that we can move the numbers later on and stuff, but I know that we never got a chance to discuss. You see, this is what I mean. We're always running late, giving late information. I have some questions about the budget. Do I ask you in front of the employees that were able to be here today? Because I have a question, for example, on the, do we ask right now, or are we going to delay it, or you tell me, you're the city manager. Because there's some monies here that I have questions about.
We went over the budget on May 16th
Yes, we did.
and 17th.
We did, Roy, but I'm asking you that we never finalize some numbers here. Do I ask you now, or do you want an email from me to ask you, because there's positions that you're putting in the budget that I'd like to ask. I asked last time, but we never had clear answers. If you look back, the Friday when we met, we stopped the meeting because we had no audit.
No, we did not stop the meeting.
Yeah, we did. We stopped at 10 o'clock in the morning.
We went 2 days of budget meetings, which was the 16th and the 17th.
Yeah, and the 17th, we cut it short because we didn't have a budget. So we weren't able to conclude.
We didn't have a budget?
We didn't have an audit. I'm sorry, we didn't have an audit. So
remember that this budget has nothing, the audit has nothing to do with this year's budget, because this audit is a 22 budget, audit, I'm sorry. And we're working on the 24-25 budget.
I realize that, Roy. I really do. It's kind of condescending when you do that. I realize that. But an audit is also very important to kind of guide yourself. As policymakers, we use it to guide ourselves, to make sure that that we guide ourselves based on developing a new budget. Okay? So on that Friday, we kind of sort of ended the meeting, and we weren't able to ask other questions. I have 4 important questions about some allocations in there, like the car that you say you need to get, a $45,000 car. I still have questions about that. But now that Jean said that we can move numbers around, is that what I understood?
Well, we're talking about, we have a sitting of 121,857,790. That's our budget right now. With that, we can move things around as we feel necessary. However, we went through 2 days of budget talks, and there was no concerns of.
Oh yeah, there was concerns on no record. There was concerns. We had a concern about the car. I asked you about the car. You said you needed a car so that you can drive the dignitaries around in a new car. That was the perception of the city. And I said to you, we don't need to do that. So I'm not trying to get into a pissing match here. What I'm trying to do is, again, use our monies right. I'd rather use that $45,000 to give increases to the employees. When you talk about everyone deserves more money, when we use, those are the type of things that you put us in that predicament as council members, at least me. I'm trying to figure this out. That's how you come, that's why I'm here in front of the employees trying to, answer some questions. We had 2 days, and it was the second day at 10 o'clock, we didn't continue. That's all. So for example, there's $150,000 for services. Is that the chamber 50, the port 50, and what's the other 54? That is an example that you didn't answer. I don't know what the other 50 is going for.
The other 50, is last year's budget, we replicated it. There was 50 for the port, 50 for the chamber, and 50 for miscellaneous donations. We wouldn't call it donations or events.
Okay, so that's all. That's all I'm asking for events. So if we put in an event together, we can get it out of there,
Potentially, yes.
potentially. That's all. That's all I'm asking. That way, you know, we know. And the car is still staying there under your
Yes.
recommendation
Yes.
for the deputy city manager. Okay. And then I have one more question, and that is that for in finance, you have a allocation of other professional services, $100,000. Can I just ask what that $100,000 is for?
So most of that is what pays our Digitech, which is the company who does all of our ambulance billing.
Okay, thank you. And then there's another other contractual service under 6899, 110,000. May I ask what that is for?
Most of that is our bank fees that we take on.
The other contractual
Yes.
services? Contractual, okay. What is it again?
So it's most of our bank fees. Every time somebody uses a credit card to pay their utility payment or any other, like a bond, the city takes on those additional
That
3 or
incur that.
4%.
So that's 110?
Yes.
And then the other 100 is for that the tech thing?
Most of it is for Digitech, which is the ambulance billing company that does
Okay.
the billing for us.
Okay. And then just one last thing, under legal, you have 3 employees. Is that third employee still staying there, that allocation?
It is staying there as an allocation in case in the future they want to hire a third person.
Okay,
We had talked about not removing it because it's harder to bring a position back once it's been removed. So if we leave it in the budget, that leaves the legal department and the city manager to give them the budget authority to hire a third person if need be in the future.
yeah, and Mr. Lawyer, is that correct? You're asking for that third position to stay there?
Yes.
Legal? Okay, thank you. So that's the dialogue I'm talking about, that we didn't finish. And so I'm asking without, I don't know, when I'm approving something, at least if it's tentative, it doesn't matter, but I should ask because these are public funds. Thank you.
Okay. Short comments, let's go. Go ahead, Mr. Gradillas.
My question was along the same line as Ms. Montiel on the employee that's going to be retained there. I believe I hear that the administrative assistant has been reassigned to another position, so we have that position there. We're not doing away with any positions, right? Those are all still in the budget. And where I'm going with that, I want to propose that we hire an administrative assistant for council, for all of us, because I think we need somebody there, and we can use the office space for a meeting place for us, so we can have somewhere where we can meet with our constituents. Yesterday, I had a meeting with the judge, and we have to use his jury room because he's got no area where we can meet. The conference room was being used, and I think that going forward, we need something like that for all of council to use, and we would need somebody to help us organize scheduling meetings and stuff. Mayor has an assistant. I don't see why the rest of council shouldn't, especially if we're all the same. So that's moving forward. I want to propose that. Thank you.
Mayor? Well, who you can, whoever.
You're done?
I just have a comment. Speaking about staging things, and this budget has become more of a budget, more of a novela. As the world turns, General Hospital, whatever days of our lives. Since the beginning, it is funny that Councilman Montiel says that some things are staged, but since the beginning we started this budget, some council members kept harping on that the audit was late. And it was late, and it was late, and it stayed on someone's desk, and it was late. Ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Rivera stated, that audit has no bearing on this budget. It never has. It never will. Has that audit always been late? Always. I've done budgets my past 4 years, and that audit has no bearing whatsoever. It doesn't depend on what Councilman Doyle did say something interesting about the water department that we need to sort of gauge on why they're losing money. I didn't need an audit. I didn't need an audit to know that our water and sewer department were losing money. It's called doing our job. That's why I asked for a water rate study a while back, because I saw the potentials. I don't need an audit. None of us do. If we did our job the way we're supposed to do it, we wouldn't be here right now. But it is funny that now we can as council members, we can go and talk to the city manager at any given time. We have questions, we go and ask them. We don't need a meeting. We don't need a meeting to bring these questions up. We can go personally, and you can ask Mr. Bermudez. I've been in his office, and we've had very heated exchanges in his office, and I've had questions too. I don't need the meeting. None of us need the meeting to, raise these questions. Well, what about this car, the troubled dignitary? Wait a minute. Mr. Kissinger has taken me personally in his vehicle when there's been huge water main breaks. He has taken me out in the boonies in his personal vehicle. So it's not that they're playing personal and I'm going to get you this for that. It's because he simply needs it. It's that simple. He needs that vehicle. He takes his own vehicle. He has taken me, and he's taken you, Mayor, and he's taken at least some of us in his personal vehicle to go see certain places. Or if I ask him, hey, can we go take a look at this place, so that we'll go in his vehicle. And I don't think that's fair. He uses his own gasoline, tires, and everything. So if we have questions, we don't need a meeting. We can go personally, each one of us, into the city manager's office and ask them. We don't need a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. That's one, Mr. Doyle.
Yes, well, I differ with Councilman Bonilla's assertion of this, and also with Mr. Bermudez, that the audit had no bearing. Then why is it on the budget? How did you know beforehand that we were going to need 100 plus to get a special auditor for the finance department? It's right there on this budget. But you knew beforehand. And again, that's the problem. That I see that we got the report late. We're trying to rush through this. We haven't even been here 2 hours, and I get the impression that everybody is racing, like push it. We're gonna reach an agreement, sometime in the next hour probably. But what's the rush? Why are we being pressed? And that's what's been happening with this budget since we were presented with it. It's it's like when I came in to pick up this budget, the tentative budget, and they also gave me the audit report, and yet you were working that day on another council meeting, which nobody notified me at that time. And yes, I've gone and spoken to Mr. Bermudez, and I'm still waiting for the answers that I asked for over 6 months. And I still we don't get updates, we don't get reports. There's a lot of things that we're not getting. No, I'm not happy with just going into your office and you giving us an explanation, but not a clear one. And especially when we don't see action. I think we need to address some things in executive session. I think we need to clarify things. I expected a lot more from you, Mr. Bojorquez, as city manager. And I'm still waiting. Mr. Bermudez, sorry. Sorry, Vice Mayor, sorry, city manager. But then again, this is, I don't want to get distracted by these, but again, there is a bearing of this audit report, because now we're going to have to spend more money getting another auditor for this coming year to help the finance department, which is something, again, I get bothered because the buck should have stopped with the city manager and the assisting city manager on those red flags. So then again, here we are, and we're discussing those things, and we can discuss them at a future date. Those are specific items, but it does have a bearing. The audit does have a bearing on this, and it's why? Because it's right here. And that's what and that's what, let's not try to sweep everything and act like if it's not there.
Okay, I'm not sweeping. Basically, we're here to do the budget. I think we're getting out of track. I understand, if you guys have questions, administration questions, this is not the meeting for that right now. Okay?
Well, I have a question for legal then.
Go ahead.
And the question is, if we do vote to pass this tentative budget, which apparently the main, at this point looks like a problem, but it's reaching a conclusion, a mutual, as far as pay raises. Now, if we accept it, does that mean that we accept the city manager's proposal of 5% across the board? If we accept this tentative budget the way it is right now, or are we going to be able to fine tune it to where the majority of the council feel more comfortable with another approach?
Mayor and council, if the motion is made to approve the order that approves the budget and allows for the or a tentative budget and allows for the publication, with a I guess an employee raise amount of $800,000, with a determination as to how it's allocated later, then that's what you're approving. So it's all a matter of how you make the motion. But again, I would just emphasize what the finance director said is you got to fish or cut bait pretty quick, because we are bumping up against time, and as with 4th of July next week and all that, it gets tougher and tougher to meet that deadline. And the last thing you want to do is not approve a final budget by the end of
Correct. So
Thank you.
Thank you. So discussion is done. Move to the order, and that's a consideration of possible action of Order 2024-06-023, an order of the City Council of Nogales, Arizona, adopting a tentative budget for fiscal year 2024-2025, scheduling a public hearing on the budget, authorizing publication of budget and notice of hearing for 2 consecutive weeks as required by law, accepting proposal from the Arizona Municipal Risk Retention Pool for workers' compensation insurance and risk insurance, property and liability, and a proposal from the City of Nogales Employees Benefit Trust for health insurance premiums with, this tentative budget of putting up 800,000 max, or
I would say appropriate 800,000 for employee raises, with the allocation to be determined at a later date.
but as scheduled right now, at a 5%.
Is that like an amended motion?
Well, no, it's not a 5% or
Okay.
or a
Stop it at 800.
hard dollar amount. It's that
Okay.
decision to be made at a later date. It's not the motion, as I just stated it, would be to make the decision on whether it's a percentage or a hard dollar amount be made at a later date. But the 800,000 would be appropriated as part of this tentative budget, so you'd have to increase it by 30-something or 20-something thousand. And then that gives the finance director the ability to go ahead and publish the notice so you can get your final budget approved in July, whatever date works best. Because remember, we got the 2-week publication. That's always tough.
If I may, Mayor. So,
Turn on.
John, just to be clear on record. So this will the purpose of doing this is to allow the 2-week publication as per statute.
Well, it sets your cap.
It sets our cap.
The tentative budget is your cap. You can adjust it downward, your appropriation cap,
But not,
but you can't go above
but
it.
not high.
So your tentative budget sets your cap, but it also then sets in motion your 2-week publication notice. Remember, there's a lead time for publication too, which is always problematic. So you have, effectively 3 weeks, and then you can hold the meeting after the second publication.
Yeah.
So you are, like I said, it's kind of crunch time.
Yeah, because we're working on crunch time from the beginning. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I had a second. Yes, sir, Mr. Doe.
It's just that, so the pay raises will be delayed for a couple of weeks. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Until we
just
resolve?
publication purposes, and we'll come back.
Just to be clear, your final budget is approved in July.
Correct.
That any kind of increases are retroactive back to the 1st of July. So they're not, they may be sort of they're going to be delayed regardless, because you can't spend that money until your final budget's approved. So between now and then, you probably need to make that decision of option A or option B. And then also, if the vice mayor is still on the line or still available by access, if he wants to vote, he could text his vote in as long as somebody reads it and affirms that it's the vice mayor's vote. Because it seems like talking on the phone is a problem.
Are you telling him? Are you asking him?
Yeah.
John, for just clarification again, I know things are on record, which is good, but so the decision to finalize the raises is still pending, okay? So that the employees know and will not be misled that this is not going to delay any raise, any paycheck, any other, financial bonus, anything they're getting. They're still going to get paid as they're getting paid now.
Right.
It's not, I don't want miscommunication. They're not going to get paid because the council can't make decisions. They're, business as usual. They're going to get paid as they're getting paid.
Current salaries would continue on in the interim
salaries.
While the final budget approval is pending. The increase part doesn't get paid. It gets paid retroactively. So if you delay it any further past today, it could delay the retroactive payment, but they're going to be paid on the regular pay cycle. So probably like the second check, or either in July or the first check in August, would pay that retroactive amount back to July 1.
Okay, so it will be retroactive.
So the sooner, just put it bluntly, the sooner you approve this budget, the sooner you approve the final budget, the sooner that retroactive payment is made on a pay period.
Employees. Okay, but meantime, they're still getting paid as usual. Yeah. That way we get that clear. Okay. Thank you for making it clear. That's why we have attorneys. That's what you do. That's right. Thank you.
With all that said, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
He has not answered. Okay, but we have.
I think you just chalk it up to 6-0 with the vice mayor excused absent.
Okay. Well, that said, motion passes. And any other comments? Move to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.